But with that being said, we're here with some Risk of Rain 2 until Lawrence shows up so we can go back to Ghost Trick.
We're on a little break because no one else is going to be joining us except for Lawrence. So
except
we're just
for Lawrence, so...
Better have Lawrence here. Might as well.
Yeah, we're getting towards the end of the game. It seems to be like a lot of revelations will start occurring very quickly. So I would rather have Lawrence here.
Explanations take long. Explanations take a while.
Okay, so
we're
just going to be chilling for the most part, maybe bantering as much as we can. But I would say that the like over-under objective that I have for this run is that I still don't have the achievement for knocking 20 like scuttle crab things over a ledge to kill. It's one of the most like fucking frustratingly specific achievements. So I still really want to get that. Is the game not crazy quiet for you? Can you hear it at all?
Well, I have it on E4.
Yeah, my risk of rain is at 100, so
maybe just right now. Maybe it's fine.
Yeah, maybe it'll get louder later. Here we go. You'll recall that I was complaining about like scoping in, scoping out with the sniper. I got the upgrade for the sniper, which just changes it to this. So it's not nearly as bad. So now I can snipe without much trouble. Anywho. Do you have any banter topics in the queue that you wouldn't mind just talking about with a small group?
Which is you.
I am a small group, yes.
I just love how after... This is not a banter topic, but I just love how after that one stream, I think it would just got into your head that I think Lawrence and everyone was like, Saba or I and you have like similar tastes.
That still pisses me off. And we can't really talk about it like on our own because obviously we both agree that we don't. It's just
but one thing I can say is that I think both you and I appreciate good storytelling. I think that's where we're like on par with each other, but like our interests kind of deviate based off of like personal preferences.
I think that the way that I would put it is that I think you and I talk a lot. I don't think that you and I agree with each other on things like any more than we do with anybody else. It's more just the fact that you and I talk a lot about a lot of things. So the list of things that we agree with is long, but the actual ratio of agree to disagree is not even remotely like special, I don't think. You know? Because it is true that we have very different tastes. I'm much more like execution focused when it comes to games. You're much more narrative focused. There are certain aesthetics that you like that I don't. I.e.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why I say like we like good storytelling overall. I think we're on the same boat as like we think like certain things come together to make good like storytelling. But yeah, like I said, our personal tastes I think are kind of different. Like you know me, like in terms of like even if you provide me like with like a game that you like, and I think I've seen this a bunch too, especially with like, you know, us playing the Steam Next Fest or like a couple of other things, but it's like
I'll bring up a game and I'll be in love with it and you'll be like, yeah,
it's not my thing, right? But it's like,
insert
you know, I can
any card game here.
I'm just not good. I'm sorry.
That's totally fine. Like what was the one that we were doing where you played as a planet?
Planet? Oh, not that card game. I know what you're talking about.
Like the one that I played for like an hour and a half, and I fucking loved it, and you were just like, "Oh my god, please."
I mean, it might be good. Yeah. So, see, that's the thing. Like to a certain degree, I could be like, I see the appeal of this. It's just not
for you. Once again, it's not your taste.
Exactly. So but I found it hilarious because I was like, I could tell you were like seething to a certain degree, like you were writing down a list. So then, like ultimately, when everyone was here to like yell at them, being like, "How freaking dare you?"
Well, I'm not necessarily making a list per se. It's just such a strange comment, I guess. of like, oh, you and Saba have the same taste. And it's like, no, Saba and I just agree on some things very passionately. Because Lawrence was obviously bringing it up in reference to Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because you and I had like roughly the same opinion about Gen 9. And it's like, I guess, but it's not the same.
Yeah, that's definitely not the same. Okay, let me see. So this is just kind of like a memeing thing. When I said not looking like, but literally being it. You remember that post I shared about Regice being like surprised in an ice cave?
Sure, because it's like made out of his own flesh or whatever.
Yeah. So in my mind, it's like, well, okay, how weird is it? Because obviously, like, if we walked into a flesh pit of human flesh, we'd be like, oh, scary.
Well, because
right?
like flesh pits don't exist, right? Ice caves do exist, though. So
no,
I don't know.
So it's like
I don't know if that would necessarily
Pokemon are made
be
out of the environment, so they're like components of themselves are technically not as like let's say
like
unique.
does a Geodude look at a regular non-sentient rock and feel weird?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna ask. So this is what I was thinking about, because it's like there's rocks everywhere, right? So Geodude, Onix, like they're not like in like anime and all that other stuff, like they're not weirded out at all, right? But it's like in reality, it's like,
I wonder if they
have
would
an
be.
opinion? Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting, because I was like, obviously we're a little bit different because flesh is a little bit different, but like ice is just like, you know, frozen water, right?
Ice
so
shows up and then leaves seasonally.
Yeah, so it's like it's still a natural occurrence. So it's like just to have Regice, I'm like, would Regice be weirded out by that? Like
in a semi-tangential fashion, it's actually quite strange that you bring this up, not because I do agree with the basic premise of what you're getting at here, but it's weird to think about how not even necessarily unrealistic, but like it's such a foreign concept for anybody who doesn't really like peruse fiction. The idea of a creature that is made out of like natural elements, really.
Yeah.
Because
and
like that literally
sentiency,
does not exist anywhere in nature.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, you know, there are myths about like the Jewish golem or like fire elementals from like Arabian folklore and stuff like that. And it's like these things make sense in fiction, but it's just so strange to think that there's literally no occurrence of that in reality. I still wouldn't necessarily, and I still wouldn't necessarily call like plants in that category, because plants are alive, like more alive than ice or
like,
rock. But it's not the same.
Not like sentient enough to like, you know, be pondering upon
it's the nature of its existence. Like, man, this is fucked.
Yeah. So I just thought that was an interesting thing. I don't know if I can come to a concurring like idea.
I mean, obviously, it's impossible to come to a real conclusion on the topic because Regice doesn't exist. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that Regice wouldn't be surprised. You know?
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Because why would it? I feel like Regice would have a pretty keen understanding as to its own like existence. Because it's
especially
a legendary.
Since it's made out of.
It's based on it. You know, it's a golem. It has a purpose. The Regigigas made them for a reason.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck this guy.
So.
Bring your things together. Come on.
So that was that.
Boom. Nice. Did you just see me deal fucking like 3,000 damage to that guy?
Yes, I'm thoroughly impressed.
You did not even see.
I didn't even see.
You lie. Why do you lie? Yes, you had some other nonsensical thing to talk about. Well, I do cool shit in the video game.
So I think we can extend this topic out or to other people. But if you're okay with it, I can just talk to you about it first. Because I don't know, sometimes if we drag like the other two, I think Lawrence is pretty good, but if we drag the other two in, sometimes my topic gets derailed and I don't get a serious answer. So it's like I usually like getting at least a serious answer from the beginning. So what do you think of games that that are narrative heavy? Yeah, I know, I agree with you. That tend to be narrative heavy, I think. But that they kind of request / like there's kind of like you're not forced to do this, but if you want to like for the sake of like 100%ing or getting an achievement, you have to do the bad option.
100%ing as in like there's an achievement for getting like the bad ending.
So one perfect example would be Nier Automata.
Nier Automata is a little... No, you're kind of right, because I don't know, maybe it was different on something else, but like on the PlayStation, it didn't have an achievement for doing like the bad ending, because the game technically has no bad ending. It just has a string
but
of
don't forget,
endings.
It's not even just endings I'm talking about. I'm talking about like killing everyone in Pascal's village.
Right? Yes.
Like
so,
that's horrible. I'm like, but there's an achievement for that.
But yeah, that's a good point.
So it's like, what do you feel about games that do that?
Well, because like this is actually quite a difficult topic to broach, not because it's like sensitive, because it's video games, who cares, but it's strange to think about, because like, yeah, killing all the robots in Pascal's village, like that one's horrible, and it's supposed to be horrible, right? Because the whole stated objective of the Yorha unit, it was to eliminate robots from the face of the earth. And it turns out, oh, the robots are gaining sentience, and they're actually pretty cool sometimes. So it's like, oh, maybe we're doing the wrong thing. And that's like something that Yoko Taro wanted people to
I think the idea was also like, are you going to like savagely kill these robots all in the name of like an achievement? I think that was also something else.
But the thing is, and you're obviously like familiar with this, but the reason why I think that this topic is quite interesting is because there is possibly one of the most perfect examples of this ever. The creator of Undertale, Toby Fox, like obviously the genocide route exists in the game, has unique content, unique music even. Toby Fox has stated explicitly that no one is intended to do the genocide route, period.
Okay.
Because narratively, the whole point of the game, like everything that you remember the pacifist ending?
I don't know if I think the one streamer
Long story
I watched...
short, the idea behind the pacifist ending is that you fight the true form of Flowey at the end when he turns back into Azrael.
I somehow seem to remember that. Yeah. Okay.
At one of the topics that Azrael goes fucking bananas over as you're fighting him is the idea of like, why are you doing this? I know that once you finish this, you'll just go on and kill everybody else. Like Azrael acknowledges the fourth wall and is like, you know it's there, you know that there is content in this game that rewards you for killing everybody, and I would rather you not do that, so I'm gonna stop you. Not that he's necessarily being heroic, because Azrael is a bad guy, but it's interesting.
He's like a bit, but let me ask you a quick thing as well. Like, how gratifying, in the terms of like gratifying the player, is the idea? Like, what's more provides more gratification? Like an achievement of some kind, or just the fact that there's more content, whether it's like, fantastic, it's just more content.
I would actually be pretty confident in saying that, like, for example, killing Pascal's village, right? If that did not have an achievement tied to it, I am pretty confident that 80% of the people who did kill Pascal's village would not have. Because I do not think that is something that most people would inherently want to do. They would much rather just look it up online. Because that's the distinction between these two, right? Because if it simply exists in the game, somebody does it because they don't care, upload it online, and then you don't have to do it, but you can still experience the same content. Whereas if there's an actual achievement or some sort of like check mark that gets crossed off the list, you have to do it.
Interesting. Okay.
So
that's quite,
So in terms of like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I have like a lot of like weird emotional stuff with video games and whatnot. I don't think I would ever put something into a game that forces the player to do something horrible.
Yeah, we're saying force like tentatively, right? Like it's the player's choice to do it, but they like give you an incentive to do the bad thing.
Kinda. Like if I can go on a slight tangent to just talk about there's a thing from a game that I played relatively recently that is really interesting to discuss in the long term, and it has to do with this same topic. It's just not about doing horrible things. In the video game Prey, the one that Bethesda released like a couple years ago, they have a thing in that game where they have water fountains. The water fountains are you can only use them once every 2 minutes. And when you use a water fountain, you restore 1 health point. Your health does not regenerate naturally in the game, and the only other way to like restore your health for the most part is to consume food, which is a limited resource on the space station that you're on, right? Now, obviously, if you're a normal human being, you don't use this system, because who the fuck is going to sit there for like 30 minutes using the same 2 water fountains over and over again to get to full health? No reasonable person would ever do that. However, there are definitely people who will feel compelled to utilize this system because it's optimal. You know what I mean? And I don't mean optimal as in like they feel like, I guess I already said it, they would feel compelled. And I would never encourage that in a player for that particular reason. So like, you're right when you say that literally I am not forcing a player to do a bad thing for an achievement, but there's a lot of people who exist out there that as soon as they see that achievement, they're like, well, I gotta do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Basically.
It's like soft pressure as opposed to like actual pressure. Because it won't
also,
affect certain people at all. Oh my god, I'm gonna die.
And so this idea kind of was brought up because surprisingly, and also not surprisingly, Genshin. But there's like this event going on where it's kind of this fun thing where it's like you're making these like drink kind of things, and non-alcoholic specifically, for these players, and you do it correctly, and I think for the most part there's a failsafe so you don't mess it up. But I was looking at it and I was like, there appear to have been like question marks for like the people, and in my mind I was thinking, is there supposed to actually be a conversation if you screw up their order? And in my mind I was like, I don't want to. Why would I want to screw up their order, right?
Because
in order to,
there's
like,
a thing on the list that tells you that there's content, right? You know?
Yeah, that's based, and that's it. Because it pisses me off that it exists to begin with. Because I'm like, well, why would I ever want to give them the bad order? You know.
Now, to be fair, unless there is like some sort of achievement or title associated with fucking up their order, you could just like look it up, right?
Yeah, but that's
to see
not
what they
it.
say.
It's whatchamacallit, because this is an event that's happening right now. So who knows? To a certain degree, I may not even be invested enough to like take a look, because I'm like, I don't care if I screw up their order or not. Or like I don't care like to screw up their order to begin with. But it's like, you're right that like seeing the thing on the checklist, right?
It just puts
like,
a little thing in,
this.
it puts a little brain worm in you where you're like, well damn it. I want to know.
It's like, because it's like, it's not like I don't want to like, complete the list, but it's like the way to complete the list I don't like. And it just got me thinking about it.
I have played very few like visual novel / dating simulator games in my life. Obviously there are some that are really famous that I just never play for obvious reasons, but I think one of the only
Give me an example.
Well, Doki Doki Literature Club is like the one that I'll never play.
Okay.
Like that, like that's like the big no for obvious reasons. But there were a couple like dating simulator games that I played in the past, and they had things where you would get like special artwork for doing certain tasks and whatnot, like getting certain achievements and whatnot. And I remember one of them just made me feel really bad, which was there was, once again, it's a dating simulator, so it was like 4 or 5 different girls that you could like interact with. And one of the achievements was to make the one emotionally vulnerable girl cry.
That's depressing.
Period. like just to make her cry. And it was,
And
it
that's
was just,
probably in the negative connotation.
oh,
we're
absolutely.
talking
It wasn't
about.
like an emotional
Yeah.
catharsis. It was like literally, it like the achievement essentially boiled
Bully
down
her.
to, yeah, bully her until she cries, and then you unlock this special artwork where it's a close-up, high-res photo of this anime girl crying with like waterfall tears down her face, and I'm
That
like,
sounds
why?
meh. Yeah, but like, and that's the thing is like, yeah, never in my life would I want that. But then once again, when you go in the gallery, right, and you see the
And you
one
see that there's a
empty
question
missing-
mark there, and you're like, well, and you click on it,
oh, yeah.
and it tells you, oh, make fucking Sakuko or whatever cry, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. She's baby.
Yeah, the more we're talking about, the more I agree that I do not like it. I mean, on one hand, it's like, you know, I think it's cool to have let's say a reaction if like you accidentally mess up something, so it's like the story goes with like your action and it gives you like your consequence kind of. But it's like I don't know, like I don't feel as good in what I was just saying. Like I kind of I don't know. What are your thoughts about like forcing like the player to do it until they do it correctly? Because like in terms of the drink
that's
thing,
an entirely different thing. That would depend on, like, you would need to have some sort of pressure valve to make sure that isn't frustrating, you know?
yeah, because
'Cause
I can't imagine so.
If you have a design in your game that allows for, you know, multiple expression gameplay sort of stuff, like multiple paths and whatnot, you have to make sure that it's not agonizing to try to go down those separate paths. But then, like, why? Like, if you want the player to do one specific thing, why do you have multiple paths to begin with? I guess that could be like a draw to the game. Like that totally could be like part of the reason why the game was made in the first place. The idea of like showing people how easy it is to like fail at some task. That, you know, I could definitely see someone making a game akin to that design, but I don't know. It that just sounds so foreign to me. Just the idea of like, you did a thing, you failed. I guess the idea of it being like, oh, there's like a million fail states here.
Yeah,
is so
and that's
weird.
what I was. That's what I was kind of saying in terms of like, I like the idea that like, oh, if the player chooses to screw around, they're going to get like their like, you know, just desserts by having the game respond and be like, okay, you sucked, and all the characters are mad at you.
Right.
It's just the checklist thing makes me mad. I think that's specifically it. It's like,
There's actually an example I can think of that's quite similar to the game punishing you for like screwing up and not paying attention. There's a game, it's a CRPG. I never finished it because it was way too long, but there's a CRPG called Tyranny, where the idea is that you play as a henchman of the big bad evil guy who won. The idea is that imagine a fictitious, non-existent CRPG existed before Tyranny started, where this like hero and his group of like other heroes tried to defeat the big bad evil guy and fucking lost, and so the world is like in turmoil, everybody's suffering, and like they're all lamenting their lives and existence and stuff, and you're like one of the henchmen. That's like the whole thing of the game. There's a part where at about the halfway point of the game, apparently, you can try to like pivot to being a better person, to being a good guy, right? But the game makes literally no indication on how to be a good person. And so it's entirely you as a human being, your interpretation of like, what would a good guy do in this specific context. And the reason why I bring it up here is because it does this really interesting thing where, like, when you're playing Zelda and you run into someone's house, do they get mad at you more often than not? Do they get mad at you for smashing up their pots looking for rupees?
No.
No, right? And that's just like a conceit of the video game, is just the idea.
Same with like Pokemon. You could just walk into
Right,
people's
just walking
houses
into
and-
people's houses. Like, no one yells at you, like, what the fuck are you doing
Hey,
in my
let
house?
me look through your trash can. Do you have a repel?
Do you have something that I could use? But yeah, like, you're picking up on what I'm putting down. In Tyranny, regardless of whether or not you're actively making an effort to be a good or a bad person, there's stuff that you can do in the game that is just beneficial to you, like on a video game level. And the game will remember these decisions, and NPCs will be like, yo, dude, what the fuck? And they'll like call you out on that shit later. Because once again, the game makes no indication as to whether or not an action you're about to do is good or bad. You just have to remember that, oh, a good person would not try to barter with this old poor woman for the medicine that she needs. But somebody who's like terminally playing a video game might be like, well, she does have 200 gold, so I could extort her for that amount. You know?
Yeah.
So this ties into your thing of like, what about a game that forces the player to do the right thing? I almost feel like, I don't know. I almost feel like letting the player make a bad decision and then fucking locking them into that position and being like, ha, you're a piece of shit. I almost find that kind of fun.
Yeah, the only thing to like, you know, be a little bit worried about is the idea that, you know, what if it was an accident, right? How can
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
you allow like the person to like come back?
There's
and, like,
a really
redeem
good example of
themselves?
this. You remember, because I know that you said that you liked it previously, but you remember The Wolf Among Us, the Telltale game?
Yes.
You remember there's that part where you're interrogating that guy at the bar, and the prompt comes up that says "glass him." Do you remember that
I
at
think
all?
so.
Yeah, it
hit
was
him with
a
the
semi-infamous prompt because at least the people that I was watching that were playing the game, the guy who was on controls thought glass him meant to give him a glass of whiskey, right? Because that's what the guy was literally asking for in the scene prior to the conversation.
Okay.
Nah, glass him means take the
like-
empty shot glass and smash it against his head.
Yeah.
Initiating like a combat sequence where the guy will never look at you the same, and you're locked out of like a lot of positive conversations with this guy. And it was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, that was a mistake on the developer's part because I didn't know what the fuck glass him meant. So I don't necessarily lament or I don't necessarily begrudge any player who didn't understand what that meant. Oh yeah.
Yep. And I think the evil is just honestly once again the checklist. I think that's the thing that gets us to
Gets me a
the
lot.
point where we're like,
It gets me a
ugh.
lot. Like once again, thank God for Toby Fox not actually putting an achievement for doing the genocide ending. Because goddamn. I would hate to have killed all of those people. I remember after I finished Undertale, because I had finished it way late, right? I remember after I had finished Undertale, Lawrence and I were like, yo, we should totally do whoa, free red item, let's go! Lawrence and I were like, yeah, dude, we should totally do a genocide run at the same time, and then like, you know, and then like race to see who finishes it first. And then as soon as I like started the genocide run, like I started up the game and you have to hit Toriel that first time, I was just like, I can't do it. I literally can't hurt her because I know she doesn't deserve it. And I know she's just a fictional character and none of this matters, but also fuck that.
But also depression. Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
feeling.
I'm just like, Toriel's a good person. She doesn't deserve this.
Yeah, man. But at least you're right. At least for that, it's more or less content. Yeah, because I imagine if there was an actual achievement to that, people would be doing it a lot more.
It would also like completely undermine Toby Fox's like vision
Point.
of what
Yeah,
he
the
wanted
point
from
of it.
Undertale. A game
So,
about
yeah.
a game about compassion and mercy, rewarding you for being a brutal, violent murderer doesn't make a lot of sense.
I will say to him, I wish instead of like it being you kill one person, you get the bad ending. I wish there was a catch net for people being like, you kill, like you didn't realize what you were kind of doing, and so you ended up killing the one guy, and then you're horrified with yourself, and then you're like, I'm never gonna kill anyone again, right?
Well,
and what I would
to
have
be
liked,
fair, there is kind of a catch, but not like inherent within the game. The catch that you can do if you realize that you made a mistake is to start again, because the game's not terribly long, you know, and dialogue for the most part is exactly the same. And Toby Fox knew this when he made the game. He knew that people were going to restart because they didn't really anticipate the consequences of their actions, which is why, like, for example, when I first played Undertale the very first time, I killed Toriel because I thought this was a video game and that's what you do. You beat up bosses, right? And she starts crying and being like, I don't understand why you did this, and she's like miserable, and she fucking falls to her knees and dissolves into nothing, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? So I like restarted the game, and upon restarting the game, Flowey goes, killed Toriel, didn't you? And I bet it felt real bad, didn't it? Because Toby Fox was clever enough with his design to include a secret save file that would label all the decisions that you made in a previous save file, so Flowey can call you out on them.
Okay, I mean, that's good. But the only other thing I would have been like, okay, if someone continues, right, with what they're doing, I feel like what you could have done is you could have potentially allowed a thing where it's like you still get the good ending, but the good ending is also on the cafe. Like there's like a little, imagine there's a little grave for who you killed, and there would be like a thing where it's like
that would undermine the whole point of the pacifist ending. You can still, like, technically the neutral ending is the quote unquote good ending, to be fair.
No, I know, but it's like imagine like you like I said, with the feelings of like, oh, you don't kill anybody else because clearly like it's this first time it was like an accident and you didn't realize what you were doing. So in the end, like, you still end up doing the good thing, but man, that's scary. But you do the good thing, and at the end you still kind of get more or less the good ending, but then you get like an extra thing where it reminds you that no, you still ended up killing this one person.
I legitimately,
to make you still feel guilty for
not
that.
Once again, not to derail your thing, but I do legitimately think the game does that, but in the neutral ending. I do legitimately believe that that's what happens.
I heard or I think I've even seen it, the neutral still more or less leans more towards the bad ending.
No, it leans more towards like you didn't do everything you could have in either direction. Because once again, like, you could qualify the neutral ending as a good ending because nothing bad happens, question mark? Because you have to, like, I don't know how aware of this you are, but, like, you have to do the neutral ending before you can do the pacifist ending. You can use the same save.
No, I was not aware.
Yeah, you can use the same save. Because the thing is that in order to unlock the conversation with Undine and Alphys that allows you to do the pacifist ending, you have to have defeated Asgore once. Or at least let him kill you, which still counts.
Okay.
So, like, it kind of exists, kind of doesn't at the same time. I don't know. This whole topic, the idea of it being like, hey, you can do bad things in a video game is weird. Because there are some games that make no qualms about it whatsoever. You know?
And I think those are like kind of
GTA.
fine because, because it's like it's not reality, right? So sometimes
and there's
maybe
no
you
harm
want
in
this
it. It's
kind
fictional,
of,
right?
Yeah, because sometimes you want this kind of release of like maybe frustration or whatever it is.
Or just
and
to
it's
live
like
the
that
fantasy
allows
of like,
you-
man, wouldn't it be really cool to pretend like I'm this fucking video game character for a little, like
Like an
fucking
evil villain and stuff
Nathan
like that.
Nathan Drake from Uncharted is supposed to just be like an Indiana Jones like fever dream, right? Like that's what the
Yeah.
that's what the explicit intention of the franchise is. But and people have talked about this before. If you actually look at what Nathan Drake does on a game by game basis, he fucking kills a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, but you're not supposed to think about that because that's not the point of the series, right? Mm-hmm. So look at these big slime, and they split into slightly smaller slime.
Ooh, that's a spiky slime.
He goes, yeah, he just gets spiky. Yeah, like that. I want these guys in Slime Rancher.
Man, the idea. Okay, and we're gonna kind of. Oh, you think we're kind of wrapped
you're
up?
breaking
with
up a little bit.
Oh, I'm breaking up. Why am I breaking up?
I have no earthly way of knowing whether or not you're still breaking up because you're not talking.
Okay, am I still breaking up now?
Yes. I'm looking
That's
at my
weird.
connection. My connection has not faltered. I think this
Neither
might
has
be.
mine.
I think this might be a Discord connectivity thing.
Should I hang up
Because I
and
remember
come
this
back?
happened. I remember this happened like a week ago with you. So
Mm-hmm.
let's give it some time. Let's give it a second.
Okay.
Anywho. So yeah, I think that this topic is pretty much exhausted. I don't know if you have anything else to say. I know I certainly don't. So yeah.
I think we've come to a conclusion.
There you go. You sound great, by the way.
Yes, I think we've come to a conclusion that we don't particularly like it. Like we think it's fine for them to. It's more or less okay for them to get away with it if it's just content, because some people can do it and we can watch it. But as soon as you bring the achievement into it, then it starts.
It crosses a
great.
line where I'm like, listen, man. Now
Yeah.
you're providing incentive for bad behavior, and that I don't like.
Yeah, so I agree
What the fuck?
with
Look
that.
at him go!
But
Look at him go!
I was thinking of something else that I was gonna say, but I forgot about it.
I mean, you got
Oh,
time
well.
if you remember.
What were we talking about before I went into like wrapping up this topic?
We were talking about Undertale a lot.
Undertale.
I don't know if that reminds you of anything.
No, I feel like we were.
We talked about
talked about something
Undertale.
else
I brought
after
up
Undertale.
Tyranny.
After that.
After
Like right before I wrapped up the thing.
I don't know, man. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
God.
I don't
We're
remember.
We both are bad at that.
I don't
remembering
remember,
it.
man.
It's okay.
It's kind of just a stream of consciousness, you know?
Yeah.
Stream of consciousness would be a really great name for like a metaphysical location.
Yeah. true.
Welcome to the stream of consciousness. Hello. It's a bunch of inside the stream is a bunch of faces that are all like baggy eyed because they can't go to sleep because they're conscious.
Yeah, I don't remember. I hate it. I'm trying really hard, but it's not happening.
Oh well. What is another banter topic? How about that? Maybe
I
you'll
don't got
remember if
anything
you stop
else.
thinking about it.
Yeah, that was my other one.
She's
that
breaking
I
up
had.
again.
I'll break it up.
Hey, hang up and call back.
I'll try that. Yeah.
Finally, some silence. Oh fuck.
Back.
Talk.
How dare you? In silence. I am talking.
You sound less robot-y, but now you sound like you're underwater again. I don't know about that.
Give me 5 seconds.
Oh, never mind. You sound great. Cool. I don't know if I'm gonna get any more.
Okay,
I
I
think
am back more time.
I don't think I'm gonna be getting any more red items, so I think I'm good.
You good?
Yeah. All right. Anywho, what was something else?
But yeah, I don't got
Holy
any more
crap!
banter.
That was a horrifying noise from you.
Oh no, what was it? There's like a plane. Sometimes planes combine. They're
No,
very
it was
loud.
it was like a.
Oh god, I have no clue then.
I don't know.
What
Maybe
that
it was you
was.
just tapping your mic or something, and it just sounded crazy.
Maybe.
Anyway, what about I don't know. What's another banter topic that's on there that that'd be good.
Do you want me to look at like maybe something maybe you put?
I have a lot of stuff on there, so it makes sense.
Ooh, let me go. Okay, AI generated Pokemon creatives and hallucinogens.
Ah, okay. So this one, I mean, we can talk about this. Like, there's no problem with that. I was kind of gonna, I don't know. I guess I wanted to ask more Adrian and Lawrence because they had to take. Actually, I guess I don't remember if you did. Did you have to take art history classes?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So, as you know, I browse like Fakemon Twitter. On a pretty regular basis because I like the stuff that people produce on there sometimes. Most of it's hot garbage, but sometimes it's really good. And there was a recent trend where and this has existed for a while, but I guess some people recently made a really good version of an AI generator that took all official Pokemon art, right? All the official art of all the individual species, and was able to just ad infinitum synthesize completely fucking wild looking Pokemon. And you could even like narrow it down to like first step of a 3-step evolution, and it would give you like steps 1, 2, and 3 generated. And obviously the AI generation, it doesn't look real, like it doesn't look like a real Pokemon. But the thing that's interesting about it, or that I found interesting about it, was that it was more than enough to give a lot of artists the inspiration that they needed to come up with some really fucking weird and cool looking designs.
Okay.
Originally, I was going to link to a few of them in the topic, but then I thought better of it because that'd be a lot of stuff to suddenly post. But yeah, there were people that were doing just like, because obviously a lot of like the Fakemon Pokemon designs that people do, they're always like an animal crossed with something. You know what I mean? Or that's usually what they are. Or it's like, oh, this represents this concept from this culture, yada yada. And not that that's necessarily bad, but you see it once, you see it 1,000 times. And so some of the AI generated stuff was just fucking batshit crazy. Like one of the people made I guess you would call it like a Komodo dragon looking thing, but its 3 body segments had a tire in each of them. And it was a steel dragon type, and it was kind of like a dragon car, but it was like more interesting than that, and it was just like a really crazy design. And so the point of me bringing this up was that I don't know if any of these artists would have come up with any of these ideas like just in a vacuum, right?
Yeah.
Obviously they were inspired by the AI generator, and it allowed them to like tap into a deeper level of creativity that they might not have otherwise had access to. So I think about that in reference to LSD and a lot of like the hallucinogens that people were taking in like the 80s and 70s and stuff. And I wonder how much of the art that we enjoy today was influenced by people just fucking tripping balls, because I know that an AI generator isn't the same as a hallucinogen, but it's arguably just as good as coming up with random shit.
Well, one thing I can say is that like you're talking about inspiration and like I think certain drugs are really like unique experiences. Whether or not they're good or bad is subjective, but like they're very unique experiences. Like I think as like many things, you can get like inspiration from, like, let's say that's why a big thing, nature, because sometimes people are like, oh, it's so breathtakingly beautiful that it triggers inspiration, or music, or all this like kind of stuff. I think there has to be, unless like you're so crazy imaginative that like your own mind.
Well, because I guess that's what I'm kind of getting at. Because like, yeah, like obviously we're discussing like the nature of inspiration at the moment, but like if you're inspired by like nature or culture or something like that, these are like concrete things that do exist. You know what I mean? Like these are real things that do exist. Whereas like the stuff that I was seeing for the AI generation was like no one in their right mind would have created this on their own. You know what I mean? Like it came from such a fucking crazy phantasmagoria that it's like I don't know if this would have existed otherwise. And I think that that's really interesting and cool.
No, yeah, I definitely think whatchamacallit, that there is a specific type of art that comes from, and that's why you have like the hippie psychedelic kind of like art itself, right? That's the direct influence of that kind of usage of like hallucinogens and stuff like that. Whether or not
hey, give me 1 second. You're breaking up again. I'm gonna try to leave and come back.
Okay.
I know it's probably annoying. Okay. Talk.
Hello, you babe? Is it better?
I mean, I guess I'm back. I don't know. We'll keep going. We'll see if this is okay. Sorry, but please continue.
My thing doesn't seem to be saying anything's wrong with me either.
Mine doesn't say anything either.
Weird.
So I can hear that you're robot-y. So it's like.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't hear you change at all, which is also a thing. But
so, I wonder if it's something with my download, because my upload is totally fine, right? I can see that because the stream has not like faltered at all. But I wonder if it's like my download is faltering, which is why I'm not getting your audio all the way.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I was saying that, you know, psychedelic inspired, hallucinogen inspired stuff or art exists, right, via like the hippie stuff. So we already have like some art like that. Now whether or not like the AI is a direct result is kind of interesting. I don't know how AI
because drug induced art isn't necessarily like what I'm referring to. I guess I mean to say that like it can be the first step. Does that make sense? Something that is inspired by whatever, drugs, AI, who cares? That's irrelevant. But what I mean to say is that like it changes, like the inspiration, the initial step comes from, you know, the act itself. But then as the person returns to lucidity, they're like, oh, that's a really good idea. I'm gonna write Lord of the Rings now. You know?
Yeah, that's what like inspire. But it's like, are you saying that you think it just only comes from?
No, I'm obviously not saying it only comes from that. I'm saying that it's a different type of inspiration other than history or the world or culture or whatever. Like there's a like there.
I mean, that's interesting. I'm not like 100% sure. I think it's the same idea.
Like, again.
I don't know what to do. I could just reset. Reset.
I don't know. I wish that I had somebody on stream to tell me whether or not this stuff sounded good, because I know for me it sounds awful. No. And I do want to hear what Saba has to say.
Okay.
Nope.
It's not whatchamacallit. Let me switch this. Is this better? Am I sounding less robot-y right now?
Kinda? I can't really tell.
You can't. Okay, you can't tell.
Anyway, just keep going.
But like, okay, just the idea you're talking about stuff like based off of like one's like own like mind, like is it called like metaphysical?
Well, metaphysics is like a different thing, but yeah, like you're picking up on what I'm putting down in terms of like things that are inspired by like the real world, which includes other fiction, because other fiction, like if your space epic story is inspired by Star Wars, Star Wars is obviously not real, but it's still a real concrete thing to reference from. Whereas the stuff that I'm referring to here seems to come from some fucking weird ass mental dimension that doesn't actually exist. But it's just like, it just leads to something that's just so, I don't know, different, I guess.
That is interesting. Yeah. Oh, I'm distracted by something. Give me 5 seconds.
Great. No problem. Saba's getting ready to fuck up her internet again in a couple of seconds, just so that way I get mad. It's quite funny because the stated objective at the start of this run was to loop so that way I could try to get the achievement for knocking a bunch of scuttle crabs over the side of something. And that's super not happening because we have like 4 minutes until Lawrence is supposed to be here. So never mind. I'm going to presume that Saba has, I don't know, let me guess, an email.
Someone did message me. And then I was just like, what the hell are you talking about?
She has to be like talking to them.
I have to
because that's her
message them,
job
yeah.
that she gets paid for.
True.
Give me that. Get the frick at it. No, I have no shield, man. The plasma shrimp. This is great dialogue we're having. It's fantastic, really.
Okay, I'm going to.
No, don't ruin it. I was having a great time. I thought we were having a really scintillating conversation.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to
people would
inspire
absolutely
myself
adore
through my
listening
own
to it.
imagination.
You know?
Okay, well, I mean,
really
in regards to what you were saying,
thought-provoking and inquisitive
in regards
stuff.
to what you're saying, I don't know, the idea
Truly
of like imagination.
a master class. Anyway,
Chill. Imagination stuff is like weird. I don't. It's like so because it's like I just don't think we know that much about it, right? Whether or not like how different it is. Like how different our mind is, quote unquote, inspired.
Like, can you imagine, and not you like literal, I'm just like as a hypothetical, can you, the royal you, imagine something that you have never remotely experienced before? Right? Because a lot of the stuff that you would think about or, you know, be inspired by would be stuff that you maybe even didn't even consciously remember that you remember, you know? Like sort of how, like, I know this is like a pretty extreme example, but like a lot of people have an idea in their mind what the taste of poop is, despite having never eaten any.
Oh, is it? But is that like your brain kind of being able to accurately
simulate what it would be based on the smell that you have definitely smelled before? You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons why your smell and your taste are so closely connected. So that way your brain can just be like, it's probably gonna taste bad.
I also have kind of a similar thing with like textures. Like I feel like I can imagine what almost every texture would feel like.
Without having necessarily touched them.
Yeah, because I don't know, maybe it's just because like we remember textures in some kind of way, or our brain can kind of simulate what it would be like pretty accurately.
And then that part right there, the concept of your brain being able to simulate what it thinks the stimuli might be, I think that's kind of what I'm getting at in terms of this topic, because it's not real. Right? Like it doesn't actually exist. It's just what your brain interprets. Like I have I'm not going to eat shit anytime soon, so it's not going to happen. But like, I wonder how accurate the average person's assumption of what poop tastes like is. Because like, how accurate is the brain? Who knows?
Yeah,
So,
who knows to a certain degree.
but like when you're a creative person, once again, this is really weird because I just talked about eating shit, but when you're a creative person and you're able to create things based on your imagination, it leads to, like, I don't know, these really weird and fascinating possibilities that I don't really think can be simulated in any other way, I guess. Like the average person's conscious mind is way too fucking powerful, I think.
Yeah, I think
You gotta
what's
get some
interesting is that
randomness
that's
in there.
definitely there's definitely an element where you could technically experiment this, to which like you have, it can even be like mundane things, but like as long as you grab someone, I guess enough is as long as you know, have someone participate who hasn't, let's say, you could do this for like taste or sound or texture, whatever, right? But they just haven't been able to experience it, and you ask them like, well, how does your mind view this? And
What do you
then
think this sensation is going to be like before experiencing it, and then after they experience it for the first time, how does it compare?
yeah, you compare.
It's
So
such
it's like you
this
can
feels like
test
such a
that.
basic experiment that they've definitely done this before. I just wouldn't
Yeah.
I wouldn't even begin to be able to know where to
we
look
just,
it
I mean,
up,
we
you know?
haven't looked at any of the data and stuff like that. Yeah, so I definitely think there's experiments of this that have been done. I just don't know the data on it. I would say I think our brains can, like, for sure, sometimes, and I don't know for the most part, but I think a good bit, like, accurately guess certain things. So I think it's quite interesting though, because I think maybe there's so much going on processing that we're not, it's, you know, the subconscious mind is processing things for us, to which, like, there's so much information that it probably does a good job at like coming to like a guess of what it could possibly be. Now we're going into like neuroscience slash psychology,
which is obviously not where this topic started, because it started with
no, I know.
AI generated
It's interesting,
Pokemon.
but yeah, the interesting thing for me is like how AI puts like artwork together is definitely something that's like a little bit interesting to me, because it's like, well, what process does the AI go by when someone like asks for like watercolor or like a specific style? I wonder how.
Because when you digitize
things.
artwork, it literally turns into pixels, i.e. ones and zeros, right? So
Yeah.
I guess the AI would literally just interpolate the ones and zeros, find patterns, and then replicate those patterns based on labels that you would address to them. Like
yeah,
the
but
like
I
the
think the
AI
interesting
would
thing is because they draw from something, right? They usually draw from like images that exist.
right, like the example that I just gave. It used all the official Pokemon art. Right?
Yeah, so it's like it's referencing something, right? So some art, I think the AI art takes the actual bits and pieces of the other art and like mushes it together in kind of like a weird way. So it's just like, yeah, I'm wondering like what the thought process is of like the
An AI
and
that
kind
does
of,
that.
yeah, kind of like what's the it's not protocol, but yeah, thought process is the only word I'm thinking to
process
use.
would be the accurate way of bringing
okay.
this up, so that's fine. But yeah, I don't know. Like, because I've never done hallucinogens. I don't know. Maybe my brain is romanticizing the idea of like how creative a person can be on hallucinogens. Maybe for the most part, it just results in somebody seeing a bunch of weird colors and acting like an idiot for a while. That seems like it could also be very accurate, you know, to how the experience is. I wouldn't know. But yeah. Ugh. Where is that boy? Because I want Lawrence to be here so that way I can compare the two of you. So like if I hear you going robot-y but Lawrence isn't, I know that it's a you problem. But if you're both getting robot-y, that means it's a me problem, you know?
Okay.
Saba's got another message again.
Yeah, I got another message.
Surprise! Who would have guessed? ladies and gentlemen, my co-star, Saba. I was gonna say your last name, and I realized that I probably should ask permission.
No, thank you.
So yeah, I did not.
I try not to do that. I mean, obviously, I think people can find me probably pretty easily. It doesn't mean, I want people to be going
just
around
look up
easily.
a fish.
As just whatchamacallit. Yeah, just Saba Pink. There you go.
Saba Pink.
But I'm trying to actively not help those people,
Not that anyway. Well, actually, now I think about it, I think literally you're the only person on stream that's ever received like actual harassment.
Well, it was also in a different language, so it's like whatever.
Well, actually, so you got harassed on stream, but then I got the long-term harassment when the guy signed me up for a bunch of porn websites.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really work in the same way, I guess. Oh yes, finally. There you go.
So yeah, I'm trying not to actively. It's kind of interesting because the idea that like I obviously have like my pen name, my online like name, but like even if I say to myself like I know there's like a couple places that have like my picture, so it's like if people want to like go find it, it's like whatever. But kind of like I kind of akin myself to like how Sia did it, where she's like her face was out there, but she's like just actively choosing not to like do it. Right? If people want to go look, whatever. I'm not trying to keep it like a secret, like some people are. I'm just like I'm not actively trying to like put myself out there. You know what I mean?
I do like it though when sometimes like personalities do try to keep it a secret, like the idea of like the personality not being the same as the actual person. A really good example of this being Toby Fox. Toby Fox, in every single one of his public appearances that he's done since the creation of Undertale, he always wears this box on his head with like the little dog face on it, like the little pixelated dog face. And that's how he always and that's how he always appears. And he always has like a voice modulator and stuff like that. So like that's Toby Fox, quote unquote. And if you wanted to, you could just look up what Toby Fox looks like, because obviously before Undertale was like a global sensation, he didn't really know what his life was going to entail. So he has some like pretty silly pictures online even, but that's like, but I don't know, that's not really the point, I guess.
And
like,
and that'd probably be akin to what I'm meaning. Like I'm not actively trying. I don't actually like the idea of putting myself out more than what's already there. But it's like I'd rather act in a way where if someone does discuss this, I'm like, I don't care, because then that, takes the power away from like them trying to rile me up. It's like, no, I know my stuff is out there. Like, kumbaya, like, great, thank you.
Kumbaya, sure. That's an appropriate use of that phrase.
Kumbaya. But
I did want to bring up something real quick. This is like a super tangent, but I just thought it was really cool. I just had to like mute myself briefly to clear my throat, and previously on OBS when I muted myself, it would literally just stop the audio, right? Because I have audio bars to show how loud things are in relation to each other. Is that not enough to do? I guess that's not enough to do the death mark, huh? That's really frustrating. Anyway, previously the audio bars would just vanish to signify that you were muted, right? I guess recently they updated OBS, and now instead of vanishing, the bars go gray. So that way I know how loud I would be if I unmuted. Yeah. But it doesn't. But it's not the same, and I think that's really. I think that's really neat.
Very nice. Very nice. Let's stick on to the topic actually we were discussing, because I'm interested because I think you actually share a different opinion than me.
Of what?
On what you want to do about like video. Because for me, I would like, well, I would prefer just to get like a VTuber or something, because it still allows me to keep some anonymity.
Was this what we were talking about, or was this what you were about to bring up?
It's very similar, because
before we get on to the topic of how to portray ourselves in video, can I bring up a different, more personal topic?
Okay.
Because it has to do with like names.
Sure.
I remember when I was younger, I was the only kid in my elementary and middle school that had the name Zach, like Zachary. And I remember thinking that it was super cool. It's one of the reasons why I fell in love with the letter Z, obviously. And I thought it was super cool. I thought that it was like really unique and awesome because although it was annoying that I was always at the end of all the lists and whatnot, it was still cool because I was always the one that was at the end of the list. And then I got into high school and Zachary was the 4th most popular name among males. Sorry, among white males in the school.
That's funny.
And well, in retrospect, it is funny. But I remember being really disappointed because I was like, man, I thought that it was like this really interesting and unique. Find a way to rescue the ship. Wait, what the?
Hey, Lawrence.
Hello.
Hello, Lawrence. We're gonna be finishing up this game of Risk of Rain, and we're gonna be bantering so I can see whether or not your voice goes robot-y like Saba's was earlier.
Well, you can also participate within this like kind of small thing we're talking about. But that's funny, Zach. Like, yeah, it's super. I mean, not that I'm not gonna have like that many people with my like name. But I had a thing where it's like my birthday, like no one like around me in like school had birthdays next like close to mine. But then like when I went to like high school or something, and then one class like someone had the same birthday, like literally the same birthday as me, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, man. It's the weirdest thing I've ever had experienced. But yeah.
My birthday.
Yeah, no.
Oh, it is a me problem. Okay, that's interesting.
But okay, before this topic, we were talking about Lawrence, how because Zach was about to like say like my full name, to which he like
and then I stopped myself because I thought about it for a second.
And I'm like, thank you, because like I'm not trying to actively put myself like out in like public space with like my full name and kind of stuff like that, even though like my full name and like pictures of myself are out there. Like I'm choosing to kind of be like whatever about it while not also actively participating in it. And I gave the example of like Sia, right? I'm like, her face is out there, right? But she just chooses to like be how she is now because maybe it's easier some way or another. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, that's basically like how I am, or I'm trying to act, even though like, my name is like pretty, I guess, unique in most spheres of where we live. Yeah, I'm trying.
American spheres.
Yeah, in most American spheres, yes. So it's like hopefully, like, yeah, I don't want to be like constantly using my full name, even though I'm using my first name, which is once again easy to maybe pinpoint me. But like I would also like, even in like video wise, I would get like a VTuber or something like that. Now Zach, I was trying to like ask akin to this, he said he would do video, and I was like thinking, I'm like, oh, okay, so you would be comfortable with that?
No.
Video as in recording your face.
No. Yeah, as in recording, because I'm pretty sure you're like face cam.
I have two minds about the idea of doing like face capture, like actual like video for like stream or whatever. I have two minds about it, because on one hand, I really detest the idea of having to like actually properly groom myself in order to look good for camera. Because you guys are aware that I have like the really long hair and I get stubble very quickly and my skin gets really greasy really fast. So it's like, if I wasn't constantly on top of that stuff, like before, during, and after stream, I would look kind of like a mess, And I don't necessarily think that at the current stage in my streaming experience, I don't necessarily feel like that would be beneficial. I don't feel like it would be more beneficial than it would be frustrating. But then on the flip side, like Saba has said in the past that she'd be willing to do a VTuber, and I don't know, there's just something about especially me being a VTuber, I'm just like, that's a little weird. It's a little weird for me.
VTubers are a little novel around this time. has been around for too long.
It's well, not only is it like new, as Lawrence is saying, like I don't know, I like the idea of like, and I'm not even talking about like, I like anime as like a style in of itself, but there's like a range in that, right? And for the most part, I like the idea of, you know, a little bit more like mature, or like the fun stuff about like adding, you know, like ears
I also
or
like
something
mature
like.
anime. I agree.
Oh yeah, sure. But like being able to like, you know, incorporate cool outfits or something that like, and in my case, I would be like, I like something that probably would semi resemble me, but it's like an anime version of me, because I just think that that's cool of how much like customization you can get out of that versus
So
like, you know.
expensive.
Yeah, that's if you like pay someone, right? And I'm not saying
Like
anything about that.
you're saying like in the hypothetical situation of like you have access to make a VTuber of your dreams.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
But what about you, Lawrence? What would you be?
What would I be?
Like kind of how in like, are you like in the middle between me and like Zach in terms of like
How much I
sharing
wanna show.
information? Yeah, sharing
It's-
information with
It's a little
stuff.
tricky. Because like, I post a lot of my art on various social medias, so
Yeah.
it becomes very easy to track me down. Way easier than I think you two. Because you just find my art, find my username, figure out that my username connects. Like I share my real name on my Instagram, I think. Or at the very least, you can click on my profile and it's right there, and then there you have my name.
Funny enough,
But,
it's actually kind of difficult to find me specifically because my name is evidently
many?
so well. Like if you do my first, middle, and last name, you come up with over 100 results.
Oh my!
Because that is how
That's
fucking
pretty
generic
impressive.
my name is, apparently.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You say that!
That's weird.
It doesn't
No, it's
feel
funny.
great!
No, I know, but it's like you got this kind of weird protection from that that's like not even like normally the way that works, which is I think pretty funny.
Oh yeah, you can.
Pseudo protection.
No one's watching the stream, so I can say this. If you type my profile name, letter J, under Google, my name, my full name,
It's just right there.
It shows up immediately. So like, well, so to answer your question, Saba, I don't think I can hide anymore. So I'm kind of like
Whatever.
prepared. I'm like whatever.
So
I'm
you
also, like,
might as well
mentally
go
prepared.
with full video.
Yeah, like I might as well just like go all out.
Oh, Lawrence,
Okay.
Lawrence,
no
what if we
point in hiding.
synergized and when, like, imagine like we did our first, like, webcam stream, everybody get hype, and then we do it, and it's you, but you have to like pantomime like you're me when I'm talking.
That's pretty funny.
Hello, I've been Asian this whole time.
Yeah.
Well, that was interesting. Yeah.
That's really interesting because you were asking Lawrence like, oh, do you think you would be in the middle of Zach and I? And in actuality, I'm in the middle of you two.
Yeah.
Like Saba's like, yeah, I want a VTuber, and Lawrence is like, fuck that. Video all the
Oh, you
way.
gotta
stick 'em
Might as
over it.
well. Who
Yeah.
cares?
The only thing that's stopping people from already stalking me, I guess, is
Well,
my
there's
lack of
also
a fan base.
don't
your
forget,
lack of
there's
fan
also,
base?
Yeah.
Lawrence, there's also the
man.
idea that like you're not only like, let's say like I'm not only choosing a VTuber just to be like anonymous, but I also just think I prefer that like style anyway, you know. So you think even
Hey.
with like that in regard, you're like still like it doesn't matter, like I can just be on video rather than on like whatever.
I don't feel like VTuber fits with me just because I'd
You're a
rather
guy.
not be
No.
me.
We,
Oh, I'm a
so
guy
you,
too.
You don't. Sorry, I just thought of something. For Zach, we just put the greeted picture that he's got up, and
No!
we just
With a little
animate that to
mouth
move.
flap.
with a little
no.
mouth left move. That would be really funny. But yeah, sorry. You continue.
Or,
It doesn't
last
fit
thing I
you.
said?
You think?
it doesn't fit me because I don't know. I don't like a VTuber that just looks exactly like or as close to my likeness, just because that feels.
Well, you
a little
can go
weird.
fantasy.
I
Don't
can
forget
go
that.
fantasy.
Like 90% of people, I think, are like that.
No, but that's the thing. I can't
because
think
I know
of
that
a
you go on.
fantasy
I know that you
model.
go on Reddit,
Oh,
Lawrence.
okay.
Have you seen any of the? I still have no fucking idea what the fuck trash taste is, but it's really
I know what it is.
what is it?
What?
So it's a group of these 3 guys who live in Japan currently. One of them is like, he's called Anime Man. So he like does like anime related stuff, and like same with like the other 2, and like Japan related stuff. And so they have a podcast together because they're friends, and they discuss like anime and things like that.
Are you potentially anticipating where I'm going with this? Because evidently, I once again, I don't follow them, but on Reddit, there are posts of one of the guys' VTubers where it's just like super hot anime guy, and it's like, wow, that's a great VTuber. And then you look at the actual guy who like runs the VTuber, and he's just like some schlubby white guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what like a bunch
That's
of
funny as hell, dude. That's so good.
And I mean that's definitely like a thing, right? Where it's like, yeah, there's like these like, you know, VTuber models are like, dang, that's good looking, right? But it's like probably in reality, obviously, because some of them are fantasy, right, to begin with. They were like, no way in hell does that like, you know, look like the person like in real life. And I think that's why when I was talking, I'm like, I like the idea of like a mixture, right? Where it's like it has like remnants of like what I am, or I would describe myself as looking as. But like also adding like that kind of fun element, being like, well, this doesn't exist in real life, so I can add like cat ears and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. But it's like I don't have a model that I think fits how I view myself. That
Which
makes
is yeah,
sense.
that's
Like
totally
I can barely hold down an OC for like a year. After a year, it's all changed. It's someone new. So I don't have a solid representative as you do, Saba. So
Yes,
it's
which I'm like, you know where like my idea is coming
Yeah.
from, because like I have something kind of solid as like an avatar. quote
nice.
unquote.
and yours has a specific theme, which makes it easy to like.
Did you just
remember.
one-shot him?
He was already at half health, but yeah, I did.
Hell yeah.
That was
Good
fucking
shit.
cool.
So yeah, Lawrence, I think that's understandable. Yeah.
If I think I said this before, but if I did have a VTuber, like similar to Saba's situation where it's like pie in the sky, somebody's just like making me a super high quality VTuber that I could just use. Because Saba said like, oh, it'd be kind of like fun to have it like, you know, like change outfits or something like that. I've decided this before. I would really like to have my VTuber just be like a slime person. And as different holidays and events occur, I could just have like different objects floating in the slime. I think that'd be really
Like
fun.
that would be fun. I think that would be cool. Yeah.
That's cool.
I could even
I like that.
I could even very easily do a little bit of like voice modulation stuff, just so that way it sounds like, yeah, I'm a slime. That'd be great. I would love that.
Yeah.
Because then
That
no one
sounds
could
super
be
nice.
upset being like, you don't look like this? I'd be like, what do you mean I don't look like this?
You have lied to me.
You're
not a
lied to me.
slime. I can't believe you've done this.
Dead. Nice. I mean, this was Drizzle, but it's not exactly
But
difficult.
that's the thing. I still think that counts as a VTuber, right? Just
No,
the
absolutely.
slime?
It would still
Just
count
one
as a
up. Yeah.
VTuber, but like if I had to pick one, it would be that.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I think that's cool too, and that's just for like, you know, the fun of it, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Like that would never happen in a million years, but like if it did, that'd be pretty
Like
nice.
if someone right now was like, we're gonna get you your
We're gonna
your
give you
slime
your
VTuber?
dream VTuber. What do you want it to be? I'd be like, oh, I'll be a slime guy. Put him in a tricorn
give-
hat, make him like kind of jelly. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
You have to be very careful, because when you say slime guy, there is things. There are things.
Make me a slime woman and give me gigantic eyes.
That's exactly what I was like. Be careful, because
Yeah.
there is a visual that people go to when you say slime person.
Give him a strong personality.
Give him a strong, veiny, girthy personality.
Yeah.
It's just like
That
Anywho,
makes all the girls go, whoa.
makes all the girls go, ew.
You're like, whoa, he's stable.
He's
Anywho.
stable. Oh
You
man,
freaks,
I
yeah,
would once
it's,
again. I just think that I love the jokes of like that's going on my Tinder profile. But I would love for like one of my like positives on like Bumble or whatever to be like stable.
that's pretty funny.
Like what's the lowest compliment you could put like positive for your dating profile? that's not like that's still like okay, because I can't think of anything better than stable, because the implication is that you weren't always stable.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, with all of the, maybe you could just be like not depressed.
No, you have to be a little, you can't just say not depressed. You gotta say like, I don't even know what the opposite of not well, because it would have to mean not depressed, but it would have to be like a little not so direct, you know?
I mean, I'm just being honest, okay?
Sure. Also, I don't lie on my profiles.
Of course not.
That's why my height is listed as 6'4".
I'm sure, yeah.
All right. So that was just a really blasé run of Risk of Rain 2. Nothing really special happened. Saba and I had some good conversations. I'm gonna like wholesale restart my computer and hope that whatever robot-y nonsense is happening will fix itself. And if it doesn't, I'm gonna Google, is Discord having problems? Because I know that the other day Discord like went down, like completely down. So I'm wondering if this is residual forms of that. Who knows?
Is that where that post came from when Discord?
Where Discord said time to go outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was from
Tuesday.
No, that was from Tuesday night. That was like from their official Twitter, because it went down and people were like, "What are we gonna do?" And Discord was like, "Go outside."
Go outside. It's...
I do like that though, because it's like, yeah, we're not working. What do you expect from us? Like, we're fixing it. Go outside while you wait. Seriously.
I will be back momentarily.